I feel like an insane person saying this, sharing this here, but I don't know where else to go. My mother laughed at me, my own mother. She said it was just a nightmare. Sleep paralysis, she said. Perfectly normal, perfectly common. But what happened to me wasn't normal or common. It's something that's never happened to me before in my life. My mind's going a mile a minute, and I can't get my head straight because even now, 12 hours later at 3 in the afternoon, my heart's pounding. I keep looking over my shoulder, expecting to see it there, to see him. I need help, I need help, I need help. But who's going to believe me? Hell, let me explain things. I live in an apartment, nothing big, a single bedroom in an unremarkable part of town. Not bad, not good, just there. Last night, I went to bed at the same time as I always do, 10 p.m. After brushing my teeth, turning on my sleep app, and reading my book, I fell asleep in about a half an hour. Let's call it 10:30. I'm a side sleeper, always have been. I'll either sleep facing my bedroom or towards the wall in the window. My cat, Opie, usually curls up next to me, but leaves at some point during the night, either to get a drink, stretch his legs, or because I've moved and he's uncomfortable. Either way, it's rare he'll stay with me throughout the whole night. I'm a fairly light sleeper, so usually when he wakes up and decides to leave, I'll stir briefly before drifting back to sleep. Last night was no different. At least, that's what I thought. I woke up facing the bedroom wall. It was dark, maybe darker than it should have been given the curtain was open, and my window is large enough to let in a decent amount of moonlight. But it was pitch black. I remember feeling a weight behind me, a small point of pressure pressing into the mattress. Opie, I thought. He was sitting on the other side of me, probably having woken up in the middle of the night and getting ready to go about his way. I closed my eyes. I didn't think anything of it. But then, the weight shifted. It pressed down harder, heavier than any cat could be, and my eyes shot open. I couldn't move. I lay there, staring at the wall, my skin prickling like a sensation deep inside of me trying to tell me that something wasn't right, that I wasn't safe. I tried to roll to confront the strangeness behind me, if only to prove that it wasn't there. My body merely rocked back and forth, and then a shadow crept over me, a darkness within the darkness, something deeper than the black of my bedroom. It stretched across my mattress, my sheets, and my breath froze. Still unable to move, I could only gaze sideways as it inched across my wall like a phantom. Something caught my eye, a glint in the window glass, a shape, leaning on my mattress with long arms, its torso bent over and examining me. It looked human almost, like a man dressed in a pale cloak, and yet, what was underneath it couldn't have been human. It was hard to make out, difficult to see in the dark, but the man, the creature, standing behind me had no eyes. Where its eyes should have been sat a crown of thorns, and behind that were 2 deep gouges, rough and bleeding as though carved with a rock. But worst of all was its nose. It didn't have one, not in a human sense. Instead, a long snout protruding from its face, hairless like a pig's and mangled. Its weight shifted on the mattress. The creature moved towards my legs, my feet. I could no longer see it in the reflection of the window pane, but I could still feel it, hear it. Its nostrils were flaring with gusts of warm air as it moved along my body. It was smelling me, I realized, taking my scent. It worked its way up to my throat, taking short sniffs, and then it stopped. My heart shuddered in my rib cage as I heard something unfurl. The next moment, something heavy and rancid fell over me, and I knew it was that thing's cloak, the pale one, except now that I was beneath it, feeling its texture against my cheek, I knew that it wasn't fabric. It was flesh. Once more, it pressed its flaring snout against my neck, but this time, I saw its jaws open. I felt its jaws wrap around my neck, and its teeth scrape against my skin. I opened my mouth to speak, to scream, but the words wouldn't come out. All I could manage was a slurred whimper. Its decrepit fingers crept into my hair, gripping it and pulling my head back. Its jaw moved from my neck, and its snout touched the corner of my ears, and then it spoke, or at least, I think it did. Its voice was a mess, like human vocal cords pulled apart piece by piece, and rearranged into something twisted. Still, I recognized one word: my name. At that moment, something came over me. Panic? Fear? I don't know what it was, but I rioted. I rocked my body back and forth with everything I had, knowing that if I didn't break this spell, then I was going to die in my bed. All the while, the monster kept speaking to me in that unintelligible voice, scraping against my neck with its teeth, painfully gripping my skull with its long fingers. Tears welled up in my eyes as I threw everything I had into my shoulder, everything I had into rolling over and breaking this paralysis. And I succeeded. My body lurched and I flipped sideways, my voice cracking as I prepared to confront my own death. But it wasn't there. The dark of my bedroom greeted me, quiet and still. In the corner of my room, my fan spun in crazy circles, blowing air across an empty hardwood floor. There was nobody, nothing at all but me. Heart pounding, I sat up. My eyes scanned the room 10 times, then I scanned it 10 times more. I looked out the bedroom window and saw my empty balcony, the moon drifting back from behind a series of clouds. Calm down, I told myself, calm down. I did a breathing exercise, in through the nose, out through the mouth, all the while reminding myself that I was too old for these kinds of nightmares. I lay back down in my bed. So often at night we have moments like these, moments where we're halfway between the dream world and our own reality, and it becomes difficult to discern where one world ends and the other one begins. I felt like that then, or at least I thought I did. I thought it was just as my mother would later suggest, a bad case of sleep paralysis, a vivid night terror. Then my door creaked open. I watched as my cat Opie crept into the room growling. His tail was straight up, his ears were pulled back, and he looked at me and made a sound he'd never made before in his life. A hiss. He was hissing and growling in turn, stalking back and forth in the center of the bedroom. I slipped from my covers, my feet pressing against the cold hardwood floor. There wasn't any such thing as monsters. Opie probably was reacting to my overreaction, and now I'd gotten him scared to death. Poor guy. I bent down to pick him up, but he squirmed away, bolted from the room, confused, exhausted, and emotionally drained. I gave up and turned back to my bed. Something looked back at me from the window, not from the other side of it, but from within the glass. A reflection. A face with a crown of thorns covering two gouged eyes. I stumbled backward, mouth dry, before spinning around and confronting nothing at all. The same empty bedroom I'd always been in. I looked back to the window and saw only my own reflection. No monster. Just a grown man who's seen one too many horror movies. Shaking my head. I resolved to sleep with the light on in a last-ditch effort to get over this childlike paranoia. As I crawled back into my covers though, I noticed a notification on my phone. My sleep app had registered a new recording. That brings me to now. I've had nightmares before. I've had night terrors and even sleep paralysis. I know what that's like. Last night, I thought I'd just had another case of that. But after I played that recording, I couldn't close my eyes. I stayed up all night, curled up with my cat in the living room, eyes peeled with every light on in the suite. It's how I know my mom is wrong. See, the sound that my sleep app picked up wasn't me snoring. It was something else. A voice, I think. I've attached it here in case anybody can help me make heads or tails of it. But please use your discretion. Whatever this thing is, it isn't human. If I'm being honest, I don't even know if it's safe to listen to. But I feel like there's a message inside of the audio. I feel like that creature was trying to tell me something. And I'm afraid that none of this will end until I hear it.